Hey guys, Aaron here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the enigmatic Tom Waits. We're going to be ranking his studio albums from worst to best, so stick around. Cheers, vinyl community. All right. Before we start talking about the Tom Waits studio albums, there are 16 of them that we're going to get through. I do want to show some stuff from my Tom Waits collection that aren't considered from his studio discography. So we're just going to really quickly bust through these. Coming up first is a bootleg live from Austin they call Romeo Bleeds. Features songs like Burma Shave, Sweet Little Bullet, On the Nickel, Romeo's Bleeding, Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis, and then they close with a Small Change, Hey Big Spender, Small Change reprise at the end. This is a concert from 1978. It was televised, I do believe. Alright, next up we have from the Glitter and Doom tour, which I believe this was taken over about a 10-date tour. They took songs from 10 different dates. We got the Glitter and Doom Live. Alright, next up, One from the Heart, Tom Waits and Crystal Gayle. This is one of many soundtracks that are part of his discography, but this one for some reason was not listed as part of it, so I'm not including it. Alright, after that we have a greatest hits of sorts called Anthology of Tom Waits. This was put out, well, it looks like 1985. Okay, coming up next is one of my favorite live albums, and definitely one of my more unique pressings. This is an Israeli copy of Big Time. The cover's kind of beat up, but the vinyl was unplayed. It looked like it was in beautiful shape. It was another very good live show. And here is my beautiful near mint original press of my favorite late night listen. You get yourself a nice cocktail, you lean back in your chair, and it takes you back to a time before I was even born. It just makes you feel like you're from a different era. I love this album. This is Nighthawks at the Diner. And then, of course, the non-original, these are the Record Store Day colored vinyl releases of the Orphans box set. We have Ballers, Brawlers, and Bastards. Those are readily available now. Alright. So those are what I have that are not considered studio albums. Like I said, there's 16 of them we're going to get through today. And coming in at number 16, my least favorite Tom Waits album is from his fourth studio album from 1977. This is Foreign Affairs. It features a duet with Bette Midler, which I do not like. Pretty much the only track on this album that I really, truly enjoy is Burma Shave. This is a pretty hit or miss record for me. I'm not a big fan of that one. Alright, coming in at number 15, the ninth studio album from 1987 on Island Records, we have Frank's Wild Years. It doubled as a stage play and it ran at the Steppenwolf Theater back in 1986. Not a huge fan of this album. It features the songs Hang On, St. Christopher, Way Down in the Hole is definitely the most famous song from this record, and then Cold Cold Ground is another really good song. The rest are kind of hit or miss for me. Next up is another soundtrack, his 14th studio album that came out on Epitaph Records back in 2002. The soundtrack to the show, or the stage play, Alice. There are some really good songs on this, and I love this artwork with this gigantically elongated Tom pushing a broom around. Yeah, 14th album came out in 2002. My favorite songs on this one are Alice, Flower's Grave, Poor Edward, and Fish and Bird. And Next up is another soundtrack. The theme continues. It's the Carnivalesque 11th studio album from 1993, put out by Island Records. UK only vinyl, only one pressing of this so far. This is the operatic stage play called The Black Rider. Best songs of this one, in my opinion, are The Black Rider, Just the Right Bullets, and The Briar and the Rose is another really good track. November's a really good song as well. This is a pretty rare find. It's only been pressed once so far. Coming in next is the only Tom Waits record that in the studio albums that I do not own. I owned the most recent repress, but it sounded horrible, so many clicks and pops, so I sent it back, and I'm still waiting for that near mint original pressing. That is the debut studio album from 1973 on Asylum Records, Closing Time. It was a great debut that kind of flew under the radar at the time. It's became kind of a cult hit now, but back then it kind of flew under the radar. Obviously, everybody knows the song. I hope I don't fall in love with you. Old 55, Virginia Street, and another famous song, Ice Cream Man. Those are the best ones. It was hard to put that one so far down on the list, but since I don't own it, I haven't listened to it a million times, so it comes in at number 12. Okay, coming in at number 11, his 15th studio album from 2004. From Anti Records, we have Real Gone. This is the most recent reissue done by, remastered by Tom and Brennan. This is an album that Les Claypool from Primus plays bass on a few of the tracks on this one, which is a big thing for me because I'm a big Primus guy. I love listening for that. My favorite tracks on this, Hoist the Rag, the 11-minute epic song called Sins of My Father, Metropolitan Glide, and of course Make It Rain. Make It Rain is probably the best song for sure on this album, and probably top 10 in his whole discography, in my opinion. That is very powerful tune. I hated putting this one down so low, but it is, he doesn't have really a bad album per se. So yeah, coming in number 11, his 15th album there. All right, next up, his 13th studio album from 2002 on Anti Records. We have Blood Money. This is another one that was put out as part of a stage play called Wojciech, and it featured the viral YouTube hit song featuring Cookie Monster, overdubbed to God's Away on Business. This is Blood Money here. My other favorite songs on this one, Coney Island Baby is another one of his big songs. Starving in the Belly of a Whale is another really good one. So that's that. Moving on to number 9, his most recent and last studio album came out in 2011 on Anti Records. We have Tom Waits' Bad As Me. It was nominated for a Grammy, and it features Keith Richards and Charlie Musselwhite, who have appeared on many of Tom's albums over the last 2 decades. This is, I believe, the original pressing. It's got the hype sticker there, got stuck on the back. My favorite songs off of Bad As Me are Chicago, Raised Right Men, Back in the Crowd, Bad As Me, and the closing Heartbreaker, New Year's Eve. Beautiful, beautiful track to end the album. This record is growing on me. It's actually the one I probably listen to the least, but every time I listen to it, I'm like, why don't I listen to this one more? It's really good. All right, coming in at number 8 is Tom's 8th studio album. It came out in 1985 on Island Records. It was my favorite for the longest time. It is Rain Dogs. This is my beautiful near mint Japanese pressing here. I got the OBI strip. This is one of my favorite records in my collection because it just sounds amazing. It looks amazing, and of course, I'm a sucker for OBI strips, so that's pretty cool to have. It was a loose concept album based around the depressed areas in New York City. I believe this is the first one that would have featured Keith Richards. I could be wrong about that one, but this definitely does have some Keith Richards on guitar. fun fact that I learned while researching for this video is I always thought that that was Tom because it does look a lot like him. It actually is not Tom Waits. It's somebody else. So that's different. I expected it to be Tom. I always thought it was. Ranked 21 on Rolling Stone's greatest albums of the 80s, and it's part of Rolling Stone's greatest 500 greatest albums of all time. So there you got that. My favorite songs: Singapore, Clap Hands, The Cemetery Polka, Big Black Mariah, and of course Rain Dogs itself. So that is number 8, his 8th studio album. Coming in at number 7, we have Tom's 10th studio album from 1992 on Island Records. Won Grammy for Best Alternative Album. It features Los Lobos, Les Claypool, and Keith Richards, and it's on pretty much every 90s, best of 90s list that you're going to find out there. We have Bone Machine. Again, there has only been one official pressing of this. It's from the UK. There's my little UK sticker there. This is another one that I'm very excited and proud to have in my collection. Great album from start to finish. My favorite songs on it: Earth Die Screaming, Dirt in the Ground, Jesus Gonna Be Here, Going Out West, Murder in the Red Barn's definitely my favorite, and I Don't Want to Grow Up. It's kind of fun and whimsical. I really do enjoy that track as well. All right, number 6, moving right along. His 2nd studio album, and the very first Tom Waits album that I ever owned. This is 1974's Asylum Records, The Heart of Saturday Night. The title was a tribute to Jack Kerouac. I learned that today. My copy is a Near Mint original, and the shrink still. It's got the original shrink wrap on it, which I'm very proud of my entire Tom Waits collection, but especially having such an old album still in its shrink and still in beautiful Near Mint condition. New Coat of Paint, San Diego Serenade, Shiver Me Timbers, and of course The Heart of Saturday Night, the song itself. Absolutely just amazing album from start to finish. You can just put this one on and you just close your eyes and it transports you back to a completely different time. It is an amazing album. I think he wrote this in a basement in New York City while he was obviously drinking very heavily. And I also learned today that this cover is based off of a song by Frank Sinatra about a hooker outside of a cocktail lounge. I'm not sure what the name of the song is, but yeah, Hearts of Saturday Night is number 6 on the countdown. All right, coming in at number 5, Tom's 5th studio album. It is 1978 Asylum Records, Blue Valentine. I just picked the new repress of this up. This is the indie blue translucent vinyl. Sounds really nice. I did have an original press of this. It needed upgraded, so I got this for now. I do try to get original Near Mint first pressings of all my Tom Waits stuff, but for now this is what I have, and it does sound pretty good. Beautiful cover of Somewhere Over the Rain, or Somewhere from West Side Story. The Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis. Romeo's Bleeding is definitely a top 10 Tom song for me. $29, Wrong Side of the Road, Whistling Past the Graveyard. All songs worth checking out. This album is another one that you can just start to finish, and it's just an amazing record. All right, coming in at number 4, Tom's 7th studio album, and the first that he produced himself. We have 1983's Swordfish Trombones. This is a gold stamp promo, and it's got this nice little white promo strip here on the front, on radio station, I'm assuming. Beautiful Near Mint original, yet again. This is going to be the theme with my Tom albums. I sought these out for a long time. It took me about a year to gather this whole collection that I have. Let's see here. This is the album that Tom moved away from the jazzy piano style that he was known for and started implementing those more unusual sounding tracks. So it was definitely a shock when I was listening to Heart of Saturday Night, and then I picked up Swordfish Trombones second, and it sounded like a completely different person vocally, as well as the instrumentation really was shocking, and it took some getting used to, but now it truly does blow me away that he's able to make the most unusual things sound gorgeous and definitely unique. Favorite songs off of this one: Underground, Shore Leave, Johnsburg, Illinois is definitely probably my favorite because it's a beautiful story. 16 shells from a 30-06 in the neighborhood. And the beatnik poetry of Frank's Wild Years has to be included in that. I absolutely adore his performance from, it's probably Letterman or one of those old time shows, standing there at the piano, cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he's telling the story about Frank's Wild Years. And just if you don't know that one, go to YouTube. You're already on YouTube. Go and search that after this video is over and look up his performance of Frank's Wild Years. I believe it's from Letterman. It's just from a late night talk show. One of the coolest performances you'll ever see. All right, and we're going to move on now to my number 3 favorite, and it's also his 3rd studio album, 1976, Asylum Records, Small Change. I learned that the girl on the front cover is a lady named Cassandra Peterson, better known as Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I'm guessing from what I was reading that she won't confirm or deny that. I think it looks like her, personally. But that's what Wikipedia was saying. And yeah, this is a first pressing. It's not, the cover's not in the best of shape, but the vinyl is perfect. Let's get into my favorite songs. Of course, you got to include Tom. I never learned how to say this. Tom Traubert's Blues. If you can correct me on that, I'd appreciate it. Step Right Up, another beatnik poetry type song. I believe that's the one that he sued Frito-Lay's for $2.5 million and won because they did a ripoff of Step Right Up, and he sued them and won $2.5 million, and that's probably why he doesn't make many studio albums anymore. Anyways, we got Step Right Up, Piano's Been Drinking, Pasties in a G-String, Small Change Got Rained On with his own 38. Those are all really amazing songs, but this is kind of a concept album in the sense that he was in a really dark period because he was hurting really bad from constant touring. His voice was hurting really bad. He was smoking too much. He was drinking way too much. And the songs really do reflect that inner pain. And you can tell from his voice in the recordings as well. It's definitely a highlight, a lifetime highlight to have an album this good, and we still have 2 more to go. Coming in at number 2 is Tom's 6th studio album from 1980. His final album with Asylum Records. It is Heart Attack and Vine. This is probably the one I listen to the most because it's a single record. I can put it on, and there's not a bad song on this. Actually, there's not a bad song on hardly any of these albums, but this is definitely one I pretty much know inside and out. It's an absolutely beautiful record. My favorite songs, Heart Attack and Vine, Jersey Girl, which Springsteen does pretty well, does it justice. On the Nickel, and of course Mr. Siegel, one of the best stories. Definitely one of his best storyteller type songs. So yeah, number 2, Heart Attack and Vine. All right, we are finally down to number 1. It is no surprise, and it is not a shock that my number 1 album, 1999, Anti Records, Mule Variations. This is the 12th studio album. It's on pretty much every list as far as the Rolling Stone 500 Greatest. It's on pretty much every 90s, best of 90s list. This is the one I always tell people that want to get into Tom Waits. This is where you should start. It's probably his most... anything since the 70s, probably his most accessible album for new fans. Features Les Claypool, Larry Lalonde, both from Primus, Charlie Musselwhite on harmonica, won the Grammy for Best Contemporary Folk Album, nominated for Rock Performance for the song Hold On. So it's won some awards, but apart from that, my pressing is the newly remastered version. I had the original, but I got rid of it for this new remaster. This is the one from the Netherlands that was done at Palace. This is probably the definitive best sounding one. I've had 3 different versions of this, including the Newberry Comics collared vinyl, and I've had the, like I said, the original one from Record Store Day back in 2011, I believe it was. But this, the Palace one from Netherlands this year is definitely the best sounding one that I've had. My favorite songs on this one are, I'm going to say pretty much the entire album is flawless, but I'm going to pick just a couple. Big in Japan, Hold On, Get Behind the Mule, What's He Building in There? You got Chocolate Jesus, The Filipino Buck, Spring Hog, and the closing track, Come On Up to the House. If that song doesn't make you want to go to church down south, nothing will, because that song is just very soulful, and it's Tom at the piano, and it just swells, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful song. And that's a great place to end this one. Go check out some of these albums. Go check out some of these songs. I want to thank you guys for sticking around watching my video. Now go check out that video of Tom doing Frank's Wild Years. Check out Mule Variations if you haven't. Stick around. I'm going to be doing more videos like this where I talk about the full discography of different bands that I collect. Coming up next will be Red Hot Chili Peppers, and then probably Ryan Adams, and then who knows what from there. So if you're a fan, make sure to hit subscribe and like. Appreciate your time, everybody. As I always say, take care and enjoy the music.